Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020s. My name is Stephen J. and today is January 1st, 2020. And I'm here just to tell you personally what I think is going to happen in the coming year. In a second video, I'm going to talk about the decade as a whole, as in we're starting a new decade, the 20s. But right now I just want to break up the two videos. And first of all, I just want to clarify that I'm not a psychic. I'm not someone that claims, I'm not going to claim to have any kind of psychic ability to talk with the spirits or anything like that. I'm just someone that, is really into kind of culture, really into human behavior, human interaction, how things work, observing trends and speculating about the future. And, so I just wanted to share my ideas. When I think of 2020 as a whole, given what's just happened the last several years of our society, I actually see what I'm going to refer to as kind of a collective deep breath, a collective quasi-pause, a collective calm. And we've seen a lot of changes this young century. We've seen, social media, smartphones, and some of the other things, a lot of issues coming up, climate change, social justice, things like that. And what I'm feeling around me and what I'm sensing is people looking for just a way to take a break, take a deep breath, pause, and really just deal with the changes that have already happened, the trends that are already occurring, and say, okay, what does this mean for me? What do I have to do to respond to how, say, our culture's changed, our education's changed, our workforce is changing and ever evolving. That being said, I see a lot of people kind of working on themselves and their community, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the list of predictions. So the list of predictions here goes as 12 of them. Number one, I'm actually going to lose quite a few people on this because I'm sure there's a lot of people hoping we're different, but I see Donald Trump getting reelected as president of the United States in November. I don't really see any of the candidates on the other side, the Democrat candidates, being ones that are necessarily going to beat him. I see some people that are kind of too far to the left for a lot of people, and I see some other people that are either too old or too young. I'm not seeing that person that's really going to excite people the way Donald Trump excited people in 2016, the way Obama did in 2008, and to a lesser extent George W. Bush back in 2000. I see actually everything kind of falling along the same lines. I see kind of around the same level of nastiness on Twitter, Facebook, and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit more actually activity on Instagram, which upsets me because I like having Instagram as my non-political social media site. And I don't see really the electoral map changing that much. I think maybe 2 or 3 states will change colors from what it was in 2016, but I see roughly the same result and the same reactions. The second thing that I predict is that a lot of the trends that we have going on over the course of the last decade will generally continue, albeit I'm seeing them kind of happening at a little bit of a slower pace. And as I say, as we kind of collectively kind of take a deep breath, take a sigh of relief and try to really process the changes that just happened, I don't see anyone really getting anywhere to make headway to say reverse any of these trends. And I'm talking about trends such as the decline in retail and people purchasing stuff online, people switching from standard beer to more craft beer, and also kind of the general decline in drinking. Actually, that's been going on over the past few years. I see those trends largely continuing. I don't see something coming in to disrupt those trends, those gradual movements, but I also see them probably happening as a slower pace as people are kind of more focused inward into within themselves as well as within kind of their community. The third prediction, I'm going to go a little bit out on the limb on prediction number 3. My third prediction is that at least one state in the country will vote to legalize some form of psychedelic drug. I see it as probably a smaller state, probably one in the Northeast or Northwest, something like that. But given what happened here in Denver where I live, where we did decriminalize the magic mushrooms, I see one state decriminalizing it, maybe even taking some initiatives from Uruguay and Portugal, places where these pretty much all drugs have been taken out of our criminal justice system. Number 4 is that we had some crazy streak of economic growth. We haven't had a recession since 2011, I think, and it's kind of the longest it's ever been. With all this happening, the old rules are not really applying, and so I actually don't see an economic recession coming. I see growth slowing down, kind of like how everything's slowing down. And when I say this, kind of realized that my predictions are actually for a fairly boring, banal year. And sorry about that. I wish I had something more exciting, but just what I'm feeling based on instinct, based on how tired people are and stuff like that, I just see a lot of more of the same in 2020 as to what's happened in the last few years. And one of those things is that we will continue to grow. We won't slip into recession, but albeit the economic growth will slow down. Some of the growth that we had before is related to the 2017 tax cuts, and that has already been factored in and stuff like that. And, everything like that. Number 5 is kind of like my overall theme of the year, is that I see a lot of people, and unfortunately, these are the kind of things that never really make any headlines, but I see a lot of people making quiet progress in their own lives and their own communities. Just like everywhere I go, I see a lot of interest from all corners of society in kind of self-help, people reading, watching TED Talks, reading stuff about how to become a better person, working on themselves internally, as well as working on the bonds they have, their relationships, their families, their close friends, their neighborhoods, their community. So I see that kind of growth kind of underpinning everywhere in society, although none of it's going to really make a big headline. All of a sudden you see something, it's a major trend reverse, but I do see a lot of people just strengthening themselves, becoming better individuals and becoming better contributors to society, which is a very good trend. Number 6 is actually, on the flip side, the depressing prediction, my prediction number 6, is that we've had the changes that we've had over the course of this young century have created some problems. What I'm talking about is a lot of this, smartphones and social media, that the change in our culture has created what I call the problems of loneliness, and all the problems related to loneliness, and loneliness has given people kind of deaths of despair, more suicides, more drug addictions, everything like that. This mental health, some people are calling it a crisis. I see people trying to come up with solutions to this problem, but unfortunately I don't see any of them working on this particular calendar year, and I don't see those trends really reversing themselves. Unfortunately, I see it, more of the same in that realm as well. I see people trying to come up with solutions, but what I see is wrong with most of the solutions people are coming up with is that these, smartphones, social media, everything about our modern world, everything is changing. The more stress in the workplace, how quicker you have to re-educate yourself and keep up. That applies to everyone, every single person, except for maybe the people at the very far ends of the age spectrum, like a 2-year-old and like a 95-year-old. Everyone other than that, everyone else in the middle is dealing with that. And so when I hear a lot of people talk about these problems, I hear them talk about the problems related to a specific demographic group, this gender, this age group, this race group even. And what I don't see is people talking about all the different components that come into this problem. Yeah, we're looking at social media too much, but what are we looking at social media? How are we implementing our algorithms? The same thing, how is some of the stress in our work culture, some of the longer commute times and everything like that contribute to people feeling that they don't have time to spend with their loved ones, maintain these friendships that people build in high school and college and into their 30s and 40s and 50s, still have those friends and still have that community, that network of support. There's so many components to this problem, whereas I see people working on the problem from the point of view of targeting a specific demographic base, the way digital marketing would traditionally teach people to do that. But I think this problem really needs to be solved in the realm of all the inputs, all the things that make us lonely, or all the things that make us less fulfilled, that are leading to these bad outcomes of violence, suicide, and drug overdoses. And I say that with hope for the rest of the decade, as I'll say in the next video, but for this coming year, given where we are now and 12 months not being that long a time, I see all these solutions failing. Number 7 is that the world events will follow generally the same pattern that they followed in the last few years. And what I mean by that is that, first of all, we've had a good deal of violence, a good deal of unrest, but we've also kind of reoriented our political system, both in the US and in a lot of other Western countries, around this tension between people who are, say, more nationalist, people who are nativist, people whose primary concern is preserving their culture. And then on the other side, we have the people that we refer to as globalists, who want to preserve the benefits of free trade, of globalization, of sharing of ideas, and the interconnectedness of the era that I'll call the neoliberal era. That reorientation of our political spectrum kind of just recently cemented itself, probably just really fully cemented itself this year. As a result, I don't think really, people have the appetite for like a reorienting of the entire political system, and then another one like right thereafter. I see that same divide happening in 2020, and I see more or less a stalemate when it comes to like which side is advancing and which side is, retreating. 2016 was a big earthquake in favor of the nationalist, the regionalist side that, when Brexit passed and Donald Trump got elected. Since then, there's been a little bit of back and forth. I feel like the globalist side, made some counter advances, in the next couple years. And here I see it same kind of like, little advances here and there, but no one really kind of moving the line, kind of like how the trench warfare really worked out in for a large part during World War I. Prediction number 8 is that there's been a lot of headlines about climate change, extreme weather, and, all the like. I actually see a little bit of reprieve from that, which should be good news for a lot of people that are like really nervous. I see, for this year and maybe a couple years, we've had a lot of these extreme events. They say this right as Australia is still, a lot of it's still on fire. But I just see like kind of coinciding with this kind of spiritual collective sigh of relief, pause, let's process what's already happened. I see a couple of years where the weather just cooperates a little better, and people can, while some people are going to still want to work on that issue, and that's, great, it needs to be worked on, but I see that pause, that collective sigh of relief, giving a lot of other people the chance to work on that kind of personal development, community progress that is going to end up being the focus for a lot of people this year. Number 9 is going to be that I sense that this is going to be, this coming summer especially, the summer of the American road trip. I say this because, one of the real ways you build connections with people is by sharing experiences in the climate change, world. Although, traditionally some of the gas guzzling SUVs have been given a lot of shade before, right now a lot more attention has been gone to flying, and the price of airplane flights have actually also seems to be tickering upward with, say for Southwest, a lot of airlines like United introducing that like economy plus or whatever it is, basic economy, the one that's the cheapest. There's a lot of more confusion around airplane prices. I see people more saying, hey, this is a good time with gas prices relatively low still. I think a lot of the country around $2.50, saying this might be a good time to just share a family summer road trip. On it, similar, I see community events happening a lot more, block parties in your neighborhood as people say, hey, it'll be good to know my neighbors again. All right, 3 more. Number 10 is part of this like workplace culture evolution. I see the emergence, not necessarily like coming into province, but I see like kind of emerging a new community for remote workers, people who go to work every day, they build connections, they make friends, and when people start working remotely, they lose that opportunity. And with more and more people working remotely, I see people actually trying to solve that problem. So I see something like not along the lines of WeWork. WeWork, unfortunately, is a little bit price prohibitive for a lot of people, like kind of working on a freelancer salary, and has its other issues that you've probably read about in the news. I see something more along the lines of something that looks kind of like a coffee shop, just emerging like, hey, all these remote workers, here's like how we can all like go to lunch together, share ideas, and make friends. On that same realm, prediction number 11 is that the transformations, just like all these other trends, the trends in the workplace will continue just the same way all the other trends will continue, roughly the same. So more flexible hours, more unlimited PTO situations, more remote work. But I don't see this gigantic day of reckoning that a lot of people are coming to terms with as far as the mass automation of large amounts of jobs through artificial intelligence. I don't see that happening in 2020. In my next video, when I talk about the rest of the decade, I will address that. In 2020, mostly it's just going to be people still processing as we still slowly transition our way of thinking. And then my final prediction is in the realm of music. I have musical back here. I have music on my shirt. One of the most interesting musical developments of 2019 was Billie Eilish. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, with her kind of more experimental mode. And what I'm seeing in music is that this yearning for something new will bring about, I say, several other artists that will be similarly experimental in different ways from each other. But I don't see what often happens when music makes great leaps forward in the past is that maybe a new genre will evolve. 1910s it was jazz, 1940s it was rock and roll, the 1970s it was hip hop. Because of how decentralized and how people aren't necessarily even hearing the same songs as each other anymore, I don't see one genre coming in and taking the world by storm and then ruling the next 4 decades. I see just a bunch, at least several, maybe even half a dozen or more other kind of Billie Eilish type artists coming in and just trying out something new. And that's my predictions for the year 2020. Stay tuned for my next video where I'll talk about the entire decade ahead.